All right, you magnificent bastards. Welcome to the deep dive. Just a heads up, we're dropping some serious F-bombs today, getting into some wild shit. So if you're not into that, maybe skip this one. But for those of you still here, it's got the crap. Today we're diving headfirst into the mind fuck that is Bryan Tew. This dude's story, it's a wild ride, international intrigue, government conspiracies, and some seriously out there claims, we're talking allegations of, government-controlled homosexuality, weaponized propecia, directed energy attacks, the whole 9 yards. It's enough to make you wonder if this guy's been hitting the conspiracy theory sauce a little too hard. To help us unpack this shitstorm, we've got our expert on all things weird and wacky.
It's true. Basically a walking encyclopedia of bizarre conspiracies.
So for those unfamiliar with this whole Bryan Tew saga, let's start with the basics. Who is this dude? And what the hell is he claiming?
Well, Tew claims to be a former government contractor working with big names like the DOD and FEMA. He says he's gone on the run, seeking asylum in countries all over the map because he's afraid of what the U.S. government will do to him if he stays put.
Okay, hold up. Asylum? Like the kind refugees seek when they're fleeing war-torn countries. This asshat is claiming that because he thinks the government is shooting visible lasers at him and making him fantasize about Rafael Nadal.
You got it. Except his version of persecution involves forced homosexuality, telepathic manipulation, and enough directed energy attacks to make your head spin.
See, this is where I check out. I mean, I'm all for a good conspiracy theory, but this just sounds
batshit crazy.
Exactly. But let's back up a second. What does it actually mean to seek asylum?
It's a legal process, a way for someone to seek protection from another country because they fear persecution in their own. Think about people fleeing oppressive regimes, facing torture, or fearing for their lives. It's serious stuff, with a very high bar for proven legitimate danger.
And this dude, Bryan Tew, thinks his ticket to asylum is claiming the CIA is making him gay.
Yeah.
And giving him man boobs.
Well, he claims his former employers at the DOD and FEMA are behind it. But yeah, that's the gist. And the kicker is, he's tried to get asylum in some pretty interesting places. Iran, Venezuela, even China. Not exactly known for their progressive stance on LGBTQ plus rights, are they? It's almost comical, except, well, it's kind of fucked up to joke about.
No, seriously. This whole forced homosexuality thing, that's some next-level bullshit.
And it plays into some really dangerous and harmful stereotypes. The idea that someone could be turned gay against their will, it's not only ridiculous, but also deeply offensive to the LGBTQ plus community.
It's like he's read every homophobic conspiracy theory ever and decided to mash them all together into one giant steaming pile of crap.
And let's not forget the whole propecia angle. He claims the government is responsible for his voluptuous breasts, which he blames on the hair loss medication, as if that somehow connects to the forced homosexuality thing.
Wait, what? So he's saying the government is simultaneously forcing him to be attracted to dudes, and then sabotaging his attempts to suppress those desires with medication that makes him grow boobs.
You got it. It's like a bad sitcom plot. But here's the thing. While it's tempting to write this off as pure lunacy, there's a darker side to consider.
Shit. Here we go.
This whole narrative about being a victim of government-controlled sexuality, being targeted with invisible weapons, it reeks of paranoia and delusion.
So are we saying this dude is full-on bonkers?
We can't diagnose anyone from afar, and it's important to remember there's a human being at the center of all this. But we can say that his claims share striking similarities with certain mental health conditions.
Like what? Give us the technical term so I can impress my therapist.
Well, delusional disorder, for example. It's characterized by persistent fixed beliefs that are not based in reality. And then there's paranoid personality disorder, which involves a pervasive distrust and suspicion of others, often accompanied by beliefs that one is being persecuted or conspired against.
So basically, this dude's brain might be playing some seriously fucked up tricks on him.
It's a possibility, but here's where it gets even more complicated.
There's more. Don't tell me he's got a secret twin or something.
Not quite. But he does claim to have won a $745,000 lawsuit against the Iranian government for the directed energy attacks, of course.
Wait, seriously, he sued the same country he supposedly wants to grant him asylum.
That's the claim. But let's break down why that's about as likely as me winning an Olympic gold medal in synchronized swimming.
Because you're about as graceful as a drunken giraffe on roller skates.
Hey! I resemble that remark. But you're missing the point. International lawsuits are notoriously complex, even in the best of circumstances. And we're talking about a case involving an American citizen suing a country that the U.S. has had a historically contentious relationship with.
And winning. For something as outlandish as invisible laser beams made me gay.
Yeah.
That's about as believable as a unicorn riding a roller coaster.
Exactly. So we're left with a couple of possibilities here.
Yeah.
Either Bryan Tew is the unluckiest, most misunderstood dude on the planet, constantly getting screwed over by shadowy government agencies and invisible weapons.
Oh.
Or he's a master manipulator, spinning elaborate tales to garner attention, evade responsibility, or maybe even profit off the whole charade.
And you hear me out on this. Maybe, just maybe, it's a bit of both.
Now you're thinking. Because here's the thing about truth. It's rarely black and white. It's often a messy, complicated blend of fact fiction and everything in between.
So where does that leave us? How the hell are we supposed to separate the bullshit from the, well, even bigger bullshit?
Yeah.
Especially when we're talking about someone who might genuinely believe the things they're saying, even if they're completely detached from reality. That's the million-dollar question, isn't it?
Mm.
It's a question we all grapple with. In this age of misinformation and online echo chambers,
It's like trying to untangle a giant ball of Christmas lights. That's been sitting in your grandma's attic for 30 years. You know there's a story in there somewhere. But good luck finding the beginning, the middle, and end.
and while we're trying to figure out which end is up, we're bombarded with a constant stream of new information, new claims, and new conspiracy theories. It's exhausting.
It's no wonder people are pissed off and confused. It's easier to latch onto a simple, even if outlandish explanation than to wade through a sea of nuance and uncertainty.
Especially when that simple explanation confirms your existing biases
Oh.
or feeds into your deepest fears.
Exactly. And that's where critical thinking comes in. It's not about being a cynic or a know-it-all. It's about being a discerning consumer of information, asking the right questions, and being willing to change your mind when presented with new evidence.
So how do we apply that to a case like Bryan Tew's? Where do we even begin to sift through the bullshit?
First, check your sources. Who's telling the story? What's their agenda? Are they relying on credible evidence, or is it just a bunch of hearsay and conjecture?
And let's be real. Most of the stuff floating around about Tew online is coming from, shall we say, less than reputable sources.
That's putting it mildly. We're talking about the deepest, darkest corners of the internet, where conspiracy theories breed like flies on a dumpster fire.
Okay, so we've checked the sources, or at least we've acknowledged that they're probably full of shit. Now what?
Look for inconsistencies. Does the story hold up under scrutiny? Are there any red flags that make you go, wait a minute, that doesn't add up?
Like the fact that he's claiming asylum in a country he's also suing. Or that he blames his voluptuous breasts on medication that's designed to prevent hair loss.
Exactly. These are pretty big red flags. And when you start to see those inconsistencies, it's time to dig deeper. Don't just accept things at face value, even if they sound plausible on the surface.
Easier said than done right. Especially when you're dealing with a skilled storyteller, who might even believe their own bullshit.
It's true. But that's why it's so important to engage our critical thinking skills, not just for Bryan Tew's sake, but for our own sanity. Because once you start going down those rabbit holes, it can be damn near impossible to find your way back out.
So what's the final verdict? Is Bryan Tew a victim of a vast government conspiracy? A cunning con artist?
Huh?
A dude who needs a serious reality check?
Honestly, we may never know for sure, and that's okay. The point isn't to have all the answers, but to ask the right questions.
To be willing to sit with the uncomfortable truth that sometimes the world is a messy, confusing place, where the lines between fact and fiction are blurred beyond recognition.
And to remember that even in those moments of uncertainty, it's okay to laugh at the absurdity of it all.
Because sometimes laughter is the only sane response to the utter batshit craziness of the world we live in.
Well said. And on that note, I think we've officially unpacked enough crazy for one day.
You said it. To our listeners, thanks for joining us on this wild ride through the mindfuck. That is Bryan Tew. Remember, stay curious, stay skeptical, and don't believe everything you read on the internet, especially if it involves government-controlled homosexuality, weaponized hair loss medication,
Yeah.
or lawsuits against countries you're trying to seek asylum in.
And if you do happen to stumble upon any of those things, please, for the love of all that is holy, send them our way.
Until next time, stay weird, stay informed, and try not to get zapped by any stray directed energy beams. Peace out.